In today's episode, a Freightliner can be your reliable partner, or it can turn into tens of thousands of dollars in expenses.
What's that? What's that?
We've collected the most common breakdowns, and believe me, some of them will surprise even experienced drivers.
Do you know what this is? This isn't snow.
Thousands of orders have gone through our shop, and more than a third of them were for Freightliners. Watch this episode until the end to save thousands of dollars and avoid getting stuck on the road.
Hello friends, this is Vadim from Atlas Truck Center. Today we have podcast number 4. As usual, we've got plenty of topics to cover. By your request, we decided to talk in detail about all the common Freightliner breakdowns. For me, this is a special truck. I know it as a former driver, as an owner-operator, and also as the head of a trucking company and the owner of a truck repair service. Yes, it has its quirks, but in my opinion, it's one of the most cost-effective options for a trucking business. But let's start with something many of you mentioned in the previous video, that Volvo ranks very low in the popularity rating of trucks. I decided to double check and prepared some statistics for 2024. Freightliner today holds approximately 36.5% of the entire market. Next come Peterbilt and Kenworth, although I consider them basically one brand. In my opinion, they are essentially the same manufacturer, PACCAR, which produces almost identical trucks. Further down the list, we have International. I've shared my thoughts on this more than once in previous videos. For me, it is probably the least interesting truck, both in terms of the cost of parts and the number of dealers in each state. As for Volvo, I've already mentioned it. Right now, it holds only about 10% of the market. Mack stays roughly at 6.7%, and Western Star ranks even lower. This actually surprised me. Although, to be honest, I've always believed that Freightliner and Western Star are essentially the same company. And now let's move on to the most interesting part, the main issues of the Freightliner. There are, honestly, a lot of them. I counted at least 58. But before we start, a small request. Your support is very important to us right now. If you enjoy what our team is doing, if the video is useful and interesting, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, share your thoughts. This is not just a formality. It genuinely helps the channel grow and gives us the motivation to create even more great episodes for you. So let's get to the main point. Freightliner is a truck that, despite all its weak spots, continues to stay on top of the market. That's exactly why I decided to put together a list of the main issues we encounter in our actual service work. This isn't theory or forum gossip. It's real hands-on experience earned over years of trucks rolling into our shop with every possible issue. We're not gonna go through all 58 points one by one. We drown in the details. Instead, we'll group them by the main systems and parts. This way, it'll be clearer where problems most often occur and what deserves your attention first. Let's go. Let's start with the simplest and least expensive, yet critically important procedure, regular engine oil changes. It may seem like a basic thing, but the engine's lifespan and stable operation directly depend on it. Speaking from our experience, in our service we use synthetic oil Shell Rotella T65W40. It's a universal option that works equally well in both winter and summer operating conditions. The 5W40 viscosity ensures confident engine starts in sub-zero temperatures and maintains a stable oil film under heavy load, for example, when climbing the mountains of Wyoming. Based on our opinion and on the results of a laboratory analysis done by one of our clients, the optimal replacement interval for this oil is between 30 and 35,000 miles. The engine stays clean, component wear is minimized, and overall engine life is extended, which significantly reduces the risk of costly repairs. That when servicing your truck, you should use only original filters. If you install aftermarket ones, especially if your warranty is still active, you risk losing the ability to use that warranty. If a problem occurs, the manufacturer will require proof that the oil and filters were replaced at a certified service center, and you'll have to provide the last 3 invoices for your maintenance. So do not try to save on this small detail. It can end up costing you a lot in the future. Friends, regarding the topic of original filters, I want to show you something very important. When issues start happening with your truck, especially if the truck is under warranty, you can lose that warranty simply because you tried to save money on your PM. All these situations come from one thing. You go somewhere cheaper to get who knows what kind of oil because it's inexpensive and supposedly more profitable. Huge mistake. Here's an example from one of my clients. Some time ago, he had his cylinder head replaced under the Premium 2000 warranty. The repair wasn't cheap, since we now install only original heads, and we'll have a separate segment on that topic. He managed to drive only 8,000 miles before the engine started knocking. Naturally, we assumed that out of 50 heads, this might have been the first time we did something wrong. We ran diagnostics, and here's what we found. The issue is that cylinder number 4, the piston smeared onto the liner. And do you know why this happened? Because somehow the cooling for that cylinder stopped completely. We started going through the invoice to see whether we might have done something wrong. For example, if we changed the oil and possibly overlooked something important. And here's the thing, many shops don't even know about this. There is an oil filter, the original one, as you can see. It has this small opening right here, and there's this component installed inside the oil manifold. The filter slides on like this. Close it this way. Right here, you have a special little button. There's a spring inside. Do you know what the problem was? The truck came to us with a PM already done. Someone had serviced it before we did. But the guys who did that job for $450 didn't specify which filters they installed or what oil they used. We even have their invoice. It's possible that they, or whoever worked on it before them, replaced the oil filter and didn't notice that this little thingy was missing. There are a lot of cases like this, which is why I'm showing it to you visually. We see this from time to time. We regularly find filters where this piece is broken. On that truck, this little thingy was missing. It had basically broken apart, and tiny little pieces of it got inside the engine and ended up in the oil passage that cools the pistons. There's an oil squirter at the bottom that cools the piston, and it just got completely clogged, like a blockage. After that, the truck started failing over time. The worst part is that after the whole review, since the truck was still under the Premium 2000 warranty, they sent an investigator. He inspected everything, documented it, confirmed that we weren't at fault, and then removed the truck from the warranty that the owner had paid for. And why did all of this happen? Because the last PM on that truck was done unprofessionally. They did note that the truck was still covered under the warranty overall, but this particular failure would not be covered by the insurance company. So, friends, when choosing a service shop, pay close attention to what they write in the paperwork. Because if the invoice says PM $450, that's complete nonsense. With documentation like that, you won't be able to prove to a dealer or an insurance company that the PM was done correctly. They'll deny the claim immediately. Now let's move on to the second important component, the engine air filter. There is no strict replacement interval for it. Everything depends on the operating conditions of your truck. For example, if your truck spends most of its time working on construction sites or in dusty environments like running flatbed or step deck freight, you will need to replace the filter roughly twice as often as on standard reefer or dry van trailers that operate in cleaner conditions. The lifespan of an engine air filter is around 1 to 150,000 miles. Many Freightliner models are equipped with a special indicator that shows when the air filter is clogged and needs to be replaced. You should not ignore this signal. A clogged filter restricts airflow, increases fuel consumption, and accelerates engine wear. Take a look at this. On many Freightliners, there is an indicator located right inside the cab, and you can use it to see exactly when it is time to replace your engine air filter. It's all pretty straightforward. Even after the filter replacement, do not forget to press the reset button. Now let me remind you about one more very important component, the air dryer. We already talked about it in one of the previous episodes. The air dryer performs a critical function. It removes moisture and oil from the pneumatic system. These contaminants can get into the system through the compressor, which works on the same principle as any internal combustion engine. The compressor has oil control rings, and over time they wear out, allowing oil residue to enter the air lines. On average, the compressor lasts around 8 to 900,000 miles. You can determine the level of wear by the amount of oil collected on the air dryer. which you will clearly see when replacing it. Take a look at what the air dryer looks like inside when it's cut open cleanly. The mileage is unknown, but judging by the condition, it's around 300,000 miles. It should have been replaced about 5 times by now. This part was cut with an angle grinder. Here's a sponge-like material that absorbs oil, then a plastic canister and a spring, all covered in oil. Now let's check the inside. When we open it, we see moisture-absorbing beads. They might also trap some oil, but their color shows they're completely worn out. They're supposed to be light. In our previous video, with mileage around 100,000 miles, the beads were still very bright. Look here. You can see it's wet. It was already working completely wrong. Maybe it was still catching some oil and moisture, but as you can see, it's all done. At the bottom, there's another layer. One dirty pad, and the last one is a special filtering paper. So here's my conclusion. The filter must be replaced on time. All that moisture and oil keeps going further into the system. The main thing is that you've now seen what it looks like inside. If there's too much oil, it's a sign that the compressor is failing and needs to be repaired or replaced. The air dryer traps this contamination and helps extend the life of the fittings and rubber seals, which in most truck air systems are not oil resistant. When exposed to oil, these seals harden, dry out, lose elasticity, and the truck starts losing air quickly. Continuing on this topic, here we have brass-type fittings. The rubber seals inside them are not oil resistant. In this case, the seals are still elastic, but there are different types of them. Orange ones, smaller blue ones, mostly used on Volvos. And here's what happens to the seal. It breaks apart because the air dryer wasn't replaced on time. This is what you get when the system runs with oil in it. The good thing is that everyone in the industry knows these fittings can be rebuilt. Freightliners usually don't bother with that, but Volvo has these replacement kits. There are about 6 or 7 variations of them. So that's just a small addition about the fittings. The air dryer cartridge should be replaced every 60 to 100,000 miles depending on operating conditions. If the truck works in high humidity or with frequent temperature changes, this interval should be reduced. If the cartridge is not replaced on time, moisture and oil get into the air system, which can lead to expensive repairs of the brakes and other components. Also, when replacing the air dryer, check for condensation in the air tank. There are special drain valves installed for this purpose. If there is water in the air tank, it means the air dryer is not working properly or is already heavily clogged. There should be no water inside, and in that case, you need to go to a shop immediately. Alright, let's do a little experiment. What's going on here? Who knows what this is and what the symptoms are? Take a look. This inner part right here, through the mesh, it's supposed to look white, but as you can see, it's been black for a long time already. And this oil that was in the air tanks has already gone straight through the filter itself. So this filter has been done for a long time. Its service life is pretty short once the compressor starts pushing oil. And judging by all these deposits, this compressor has been pushing oil for a long time. The next important topic is the power steering fluid and the filter that's installed in a spot I didn't even know about right away after we opened our shop. One of our customers actually pointed out that it even exists. I recommend doing this service roughly every 200,000 miles. The system usually holds about 4 liters of power steering fluid. In this case, it uses ATF, if you're familiar with it. Along with the fluid, you also replace a small filter that sits inside the reservoir itself. Ignoring this service will lead to a whining noise in the steering and increase steering effort, which can eventually cause premature wear of the power steering pump and result in expensive repairs. The next topic is the cabin air filters. Freightliners have several of them, and you need to keep all of them in mind. The main cabin filter is installed under the hood. It cleans the outside air that enters the ventilation and AC system. The second and third filters clean the air that already circulates inside the cab. One is located in the dashboard on the passenger side, and the other one is in the cabinet behind the driver's seat. If the filters become heavily contaminated, black mold can appear inside them, along with a fungus that smells like cheese or dirty socks. A clogged filter reduces ventilation efficiency, worsens air quality inside the cab, and can even cause health issues. The next topic is the DEF filter. It's one of the components of the after-treatment emissions system and is directly related to the SCR module, which is responsible for reducing NOx emissions. Replacing the DEF filter is recommended roughly every 180 to 200,000 miles. It's important to remember that problems can occur not only because of the filter itself, but also because of the DEF pump. The average lifespan of the pump is around 450,000 miles, and you need to be prepared for that. The first signs of a failing pump are the formation of a thick crust of dried DEF on its housing. So guys, do you know what that even is? It's not snow, it's all dried DEF. That's what a dying DEF pump can look like. By the way, many people don't even look under the truck in winter to see what's going on down there, but you should. After that, the pump stops building pressure and the system puts the truck into a hard derate, limiting the speed first to 55 miles per hour and then to 5 miles per hour. If a corresponding warning appears on the dashboard, it's extremely important not to shut the engine off and head to the nearest service location. Otherwise, the unit will simply stop moving and a tow truck will cost you much more. Based on real-world experience, after this message appears, you usually have about 2 hours or roughly 200 miles of driving left. These numbers are approximate, there are no exact values in the official technical documentation. This is all based on practice and feedback from our clients. Let's move on. The next fluid to be changed every 200,000 miles is transmission oil, 75/90, preferably full synthetic along with the oil in the rear differentials. Regular replacement of these oils significantly extends the service life of the components. Freightliner transmissions do not have a fine filtration filter, so during operation, metallic dust builds up in the oil. When we drain it, we often see a characteristic pearlescent sheen. That's fine metal particles created as the transmission wears. This doesn't even look like oil anymore. It's more like metal sludge. There isn't even 1 liter left here, when it should be anywhere from 8 to 14 liters. Timely replacement under these conditions helps extend the service life of the unit, and with proper maintenance, the transmission can run up to 1.5 million miles without serious mechanical damage. The oil in the drive axles should be changed at the same interval. Due to heat, it gradually loses its lubricating properties, and the hub seals begin to harden and leak prematurely. And by the way, when it comes to the transmission, this is probably the only downside compared to Volvo, since Volvo transmissions are equipped with a fine filtration filter. The next topic is the alternator and fan belt. The average lifespan of the belt is around 400,000 miles, but sometimes it needs to be replaced a bit earlier. The first sign of a problem is a squeaking noise on a cold engine. It sounds like a cricket. The belt has a special flocked coating that feels like fabric. Over time, this coating wears off and the belt starts to squeak. That's your signal that it's time to replace the belt. The belt tensioners last much longer, around 800,000 and up, and are considered a reliable component. Visually inspect the belts at every service. Cracks, delamination, or worn edges are clear signs that the belt is about to fail, and you'll end up stranded on the road, with the next stop being a tow truck. For more details on how to spot wear and know when it's time for replacement, check out this video. This is what a brand new belt looks like. As you can see, it has a special fabric-like coating that prevents slipping and extends its service life. When this coating wears off, that squeaking noise starts. And that's your signal, it's time to replace the belt. Pay attention to this. Now, let's take a closer look here. You can see the same rough, textured coating everywhere. Volvo belts have this coating as well. It's not smooth. This way, you can check your own truck and see for yourself whether your belt needs to be replaced. On this truck right here, we can clearly see that the belts already need to be replaced. And there's almost no flocking left. I believe Freightliner is still one of the best trucks for making money because most issues can be predicted in advance. There are only about 60 common problems you need to be aware of. We cover them in this podcast, and there will be another episode coming up. Stay with us and keep watching. By the way, look what else I found. Someone replaced the cap here at some point and didn't tighten it properly. This is how it's supposed to be. A fairly large and serious topic is the engine cooling system. Let's start with the radiator. The original one usually lasts around 450,000. The main issue is cracking of the upper tank. This is almost impossible to prevent, but most of the time these cracks appear specifically during regeneration. I recommend removing the bypass cap during regeneration. It is located on the right side of the coolant expansion tank. I'd replace this cap every 100,000. Real-world practice has shown that during testing, it does not always relieve pressure at the specified 20 psi, and quite often it opens only at pressures above 30 psi. This can lead to damage to the radiator and the cooling system.
Today I'm doing a coolant test. This coolant has about 500,000 on it and was most likely never changed. This one is new, and this is just water. We're using a tester that checks pH, water hardness, and freeze protection. Let's do the test. First, water. Everything is yellow. That means hard water, and it will freeze. Needs to be replaced. Next, antifreeze. pH is about 9. That's perfect. But the freezing point is about 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Third sample, old coolant from the truck. It's very thick. pH is close to 5.5, and freeze protection is around -60.
I have but one question.
Is it worth continuing to run this truck on that antifreeze? Leave your opinion in the comments.
I'd recommend changing the coolant every 200,000 miles. If it isn't replaced on time, metallic particles start to build up. They settle throughout the cooling system, clog the heater core inside the cabin, and act like an abrasive, wearing out the water pump seal. Do you really think anything is going to heat in here when there's this kind of sludge inside? I don't even know what this stuff is. It looks like sand, and there's a lot of it. Looks like we're going to have to blow out the lines. This is a mess. With regular coolant changes, the water pump can usually last over 800,000. Metallic dust also settles on the magnets of the float inside the expansion tank, which is used to determine the coolant level. So take a look. If you can actually see this float yourself, and notice these black deposits on it, that's just metal that's been magnetized and stuck to it. There might be enough metal weight there to make it sink down. 1, 2, you can see it on 3 sides now. 1, 2, 3.
And keep turning. 4 more.
Yeah, and 5, and 6. That's enough. All right. When too much metal builds up on the float, it becomes heavy and sinks, which can cause the engine to shut down instantly, even when the actual coolant level is normal. At around 500,000 miles, it's recommended to replace the expansion tank. When doing that, you should always install a new coolant level sensor and connector, since the old ones often have worn or chafed wires, which can trigger false errors. All right, friends, let's wrap up the first half of the list here. There are still more than 25 items left that I want to go over with you. We'll continue breaking them all down next week. I hope this episode was helpful for you. I'd love to see your comments and feedback. Let me know what you think and what topics you'd like me to cover in the next part. As always, we'll see you here at Shop. Have a great day and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Как всегда, увидимся у нас в шапе. Всего хорошего. Как всегда, увидимся у нас в шапе. Всего хорошего. Всего хорошего.